Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Reserved Investments. You know, this really just occurred to me. This amiibo, if a Timmy was an amiibo, this would be the amiibo the Timmy would be. Let's be realistic here. The Lucas amiibo from the Super Smash Bros. Line looks exactly like I envision a young Timmy to look like. So if you're a Timmy, this may just look like you. So just keep that in mind as we go forward here. Now, before we get to the seriousness of this video, and it will eventually get serious, I assure you, a lot of you have reached out and you said, Sean, you've been on YouTube for roughly 4 years now, and you don't do anything special for any of the holidays, whether it's Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, whatever the holiday, you guys accuse me of being an old fuddy-duddy, if I can use that word. Now, we here at Reserved Investments, we take your criticisms very seriously. So I want you to know, I know this video is going to air sometime in November, but I want you to know that we did spend some of that $3.96 budget that I have allocated for the month on Halloween decorations. And what we agreed to go with was this particular almost vintage Halloween vampire themed Pez dispenser with a glow-in-the-dark stem. Now, this damn Pez dispenser, because the whole collecting market for Pez is pretty much dead. It's in the shitter. Don't try to invest in Pez dispensers. But let me tell you, I was able to get this at a very good price. I paid less than $1 for this thing. So those of you that accuse me of not decorating for the holiday, shame on you. I'm going to put this right here next to the book that some of you claim I should read, entitled How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I want you to know there are no friends in the antiques and collectibles trade, especially when you teach people the basics and the fundamentals of investing in these markets. Don't do it in most cases. Diversify into these markets, but don't make antiques and collectibles your sole investment. It should never, ever be 100% of your entire investment portfolio. Said another way, get yourself a diversified investment portfolio. Get yourself an S&P 500 index fund. Then when you get financially established, you can discover the world of high-profile antique and collectible investments. Now, with that being said, today we're going to talk about the chaos that is occurring in the overall modern era Magic the Gathering collecting market. Now, normally, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I really don't enjoy commenting on the collectible card game genre simply because there's too many Timmies, Kimmies, and Poindexters that come into the comment section and they come at me with torches drawn, pitchforks drawn, telling me that I don't understand, Sean, it's Pokemon. Now, no disrespect to the Pokemon collectors, although I think that some of you really need to start learning the basics of how these markets work, start reading books, hint, hint, about the antiques and collectibles trade, and then understand that you need to sell into the hype, not buy into it, and you will actually make money in these markets. But no disrespect to the Pokemon collectors. I understand Pokemon has a lot of organic collectability. So does Magic the Gathering, for that matter. But just know, lesson one that I was taught by my mentors when I entered the antiques and collectibles trade at the ripe old age of 12 was, in collectible markets that are highly speculative, hoarding is the norm, and all hoarders eventually lose. Case in point, modern era, mass-produced Magic the Gathering products. A lot of you guys have been investing in this market month after month, product after product, since 2016, since 2017. Ever since Alpha Investments came on the scene. And I want to be very clear here. I have a lot of respect for Rudy. I have a lot of respect for Alpha Investments. Please do not take this video as me cutting up Rudy, as me cutting up Alpha Investments. I want to make that very clear. We're all in the same proverbial pond when we talk about collectible finance. He just does things that I probably wouldn't do, or I think is a little bit more risky than what other people would probably do in the antiques and collectibles trade. So I just want to make that very clear. Different perspectives, different paths, different outcomes, different ways of looking at these markets. For the record, there are things that I would agree, if I had a conversation on camera, on film, with Rudy with Alpha Investments, there would be things that we both agree on. There would be things that we completely disagree on. Same thing's true if we talk Pokemon cards. If you know who SM Pratt is, I have a lot of respect for him as well. There would be a discussion that we would have. There would be things that we agree with. There would be things that we would not agree with. Now, with that said, back in 2016, back in 2017, the average wholesale price for a box of modern era Magic the Gathering cards, a booster box, was roughly $80. Rudy does have a Patreon. You can order mass-produced Magic the Gathering products, Pokemon products. I think he has Flesh and Blood in there. I think he has MetaZoo. He offers all of those products, and good for him. And if you just love the game, you want to play this stuff, you do you. If you have a little bit money to spend and you want to speculate in some of this stuff, you do you. Always remember, though, always sell into the hype. Don't try to hoard this stuff for the long term. Unfortunately, a lot of you are not taking my advice. Case in point, again, January 2017, if you were to take that $80 that you could have spent on a factory sealed modern Magic the Gathering booster box, and instead you said, you know what, I'm not playing this game anymore. Too much of this stuff is circulating out there. Too much of it is going to be hoarded. I'm going to take that $80 and I'm going to put it in an S&P 500 index fund. Now, I'm recording this particular video towards the end of October 2023. Obviously, it's going to air sometime in November. With that being said, how much do you think that $80 invested in an S&P 500 index fund would have grown from January 2017 to October 2023 with all the calamity that is going on in the world right now? With two wars, you got Ukraine and Russia duking it out. You got Hamas and Israel duking it out. You got inflation that is happening on a worldwide global scale, although finally now it is starting to come down to reasonable numbers. You have an uncertain economy. You have things just kind of not going as they should. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of volatility in the market. Well, that $80, even with all the calamity in the overall market, would have grown to $178.19 with the reinvestment of the dividends that particular investment pays. Now, I know some of you Timmies, Kimmies, and Poindexters are going to say, well, Sean, what if I want to take the dividend? I'm glad you asked. If you would have invested that $80 and you said, you know what, I need some money coming in. I want to spend a couple of dollars of a dividend that I'm going to get off that S&P 500 index fund, that investment would have still grown to $158.79. Now, this is very interesting because most of your booster boxes that you guys were buying in January 2016, January 2017 for $80, they did not grow in value to that amount. And even if they did, how many of you sold? How many of you cashed out? I keep telling you guys, everybody is hoarding this stuff. If you are investing in these markets, even Pokemon is not immune. You need to really study up on the junk wax era. What happened in sports cards, mainly baseball cards, back in the 1980s and early 1990s when manufacturers knew they could take advantage of the Timmies, Kimmies, and Poindexters by dumping this stuff on the market in mass. We already know how that turned out. I'm going to recommend two resources for you to study this. The first is this book right here, Mint Condition, How Baseball Cards Became an American Obsession, written by Dave Jamieson. The other resource is actually available, I think, if you live in the United States and you have a Netflix subscription. It's called Jack of All Trades. It's about a guy who had a lot of trauma in his childhood. He goes back, reconnects with his father, who happened to own a collectible card shop devoted to baseball cards, sports cards back in the 1980s and 90s. And he finds boxes, literally factory sealed boxes of all these old baseball cards. And he goes to look them up. He spends some time with his father and he realizes that they're pretty much worthless. This is the reality that we live in, guys. the people in the ivory tower, whether they work for Hasbro, whether they work for the Pokemon Company, whoever they work for, if it's Funko Pop, if it's Pez, if it's Lego, they know how to make these markets work for their own benefit at the collectors and speculators' expense. I'm here to tell you, if you have a passion for this stuff and you want to invest in it long term, try to go after the vintage stuff. To be fair, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, even a lot of these other products like Lego, factory sealed modern era video games, those particular items do have organic collectability. They're not like Funko Pops. They're not like Pez dispensers, which, believe it or not, did have organic collectability. It's just, this is more of a baby boomer collectible. It's dying out right now. Younger generations are not flocking to Pez. You want proof? These are two of the most popular vintage Star Wars Pez dispensers of all time. This one was released in the 90s. It has been re-released several times since then. This one was re-released with the movie Attack of the Clones that came out in 2002. Right now, you go on eBay, you can find these particular Pez dispensers, factory sealed, either in a cello bag or on an actual card, a card back. Believe it or not, they did release Pez, and they still release Pez on card backs with candy. These particular items, brand new, shipped to your door, should set you back less than $10 a piece. And in most cases, you can find the Boba Fett Pez for $5 new or less, shipped directly to you. This market is pretty much dead in the water. And the same thing is going to happen with Funko Pop collectors. This is why I keep telling the Funko Pop collectors who come into my comment section whenever I do a Funko Pop video and think they're really intelligent, and they say, hey, Sean, you don't understand. Funko Pops are based on licensed properties. It doesn't matter. If you want a prime example, look at Pez dispensers. Pez dispensers were also based on licensed properties. And guess what? It's in the toilet right now, guys. Please learn from this. Please do not be a Timmy. Please understand that over the long term, in collectible markets that are highly speculative, hoarding is the norm, and all hoarders eventually lose. Case in point, January 2017, you have $80 burning a hole in your pocket, and you go, you know what? There's this guy on YouTube that's going to sell me a factory sealed box, booster box of Magic the Gathering cards, and he's going to ship it to me free of charge. I'm going to give him $80. Or you can put the $80 in an S&P 500 index fund. Well, today, in September, October of 2023, again, you would have had $178.19 on average. If you took the dividends, you would have had $158.79. Either way, you would have literally just about doubled your money on whatever scenario you choose here. Did you double your money buying all those booster boxes that are now sitting in a closet, that are now sitting in a storage unit, that are now sitting in a spare bedroom that you're calling an investment? These markets do not work that way. Please learn from this and don't be a Timmy. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.